Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you ever wondered how one small action, something you whispered into the quiet space between you and Allah, could carry the weight of an entire year of fasting and standing in the depths of the night? Have you ever paused and thought, why does Allah reward so much for something that seems so small? It's because Allah doesn't measure the way we measure. We count minutes, hours, and days. Allah counts sincerity, intention, and the state of your heart. Allah says that even the smallest good deed, done with humility, done with love, done with a heart trembling for Him, can be multiplied beyond what your mind can grasp. This is the mercy of the one who knows how many tears you cried, even when no one else saw. This is the compassion of the one who knows how heavy your chest felt when you forced yourself to still say Alhamdulillah. Sometimes life breaks you in places no one can see. Sometimes waiting feels endless, and sabr feels heavier than a mountain. But in those moments when you make one sincere choice, one sincere act for the sake of Allah, He gives you the reward of someone who stood in Tahajjud all year. He gives you the reward of someone who fasted from dawn to sunset, month after month, because your struggle, your patience, your quiet endurance, that is worship. Remember, the Prophet taught us that deeds are judged by intention. So maybe that one act, the one no one applauded, the one no one even noticed, was seen by the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and He decided that it was worth more than a year of worship. This is what sabr truly means, to keep walking toward Allah, even when your heart feels tired, to choose Him when your soul is tested, to surrender to His timing, trusting that He knows what you do not. And here is your reminder, the kind that heals. Do something today just for Him, something small, something sincere, because with Allah, a moment can become a lifetime of reward, a step can become a journey, a tear can become forgiveness, and one action done purely for His sake can become equal to a year of fasting and tahajjud. So breathe, return, remember Him, and let your heart settle in the knowing that Allah never lets a sincere deed go unnoticed, not today, not ever. The mercy of Allah is so vast that a single sincere deed can outweigh years of worship. When we reflect on this, it becomes a reminder of how differently Allah measures our actions compared to how we measure them. We often think in terms of quantity, how many prayers, how many fasts, how many nights of tahajjud. But Allah looks for something far deeper and far more beautiful, sincerity. A small act, when done with a heart that is truly present, can open the doors of unimaginable reward. This is because Allah knows the condition of the heart at the moment of the deed. He knows the struggle behind it, the intention driving it, and the purity within it. Think of a person who drags themselves out of emotional pain, out of exhaustion, or out of a difficult moment just to say one word of remembrance. Subhanallah. That one word may be more beloved to Allah than someone who worships outwardly for hours but has no humility, no sincerity, and no connection. This is why one sincere deed can outweigh years of routine worship. Allah's mercy elevates even the smallest actions when they are rooted in love and devotion. Times the deed is small, but the sacrifice behind it is enormous. Sometimes the action takes 1 minute, but the intention was built over months of struggle and hope. This is why Allah multiplies the reward so generously. He is not rewarding the physical act alone. He is rewarding the heart that pushed through doubts, pain, or fear just to seek Him. When a believer chooses Allah sincerely, even in a single moment, Allah responds with blessings that extend far beyond what the person expects. This key point teaches us that we should never underestimate any act of goodness. With Allah, it is never about the size of the action. It is about the sincerity behind it. And because His mercy is limitless, He can turn one moment of truthfulness into the reward of a lifetime. Intention is the hidden engine behind every act of worship, the quiet force that transforms something simple into something extraordinary. It is often said that intention is the soul of deeds because without it, an action may look grand on the outside but remain empty in the sight of Allah. Yet with sincere intention, even the smallest action can become a source of massive reward. A person might smile at someone, give a single date in charity, help a parent for just a moment, or whisper a short dua, and because they intended it solely for the pleasure of Allah, it becomes heavier on the scale than hours of worship performed without reflection. The beauty of intention lies in how accessible it is. You don't need wealth, strength, or status to have a pure intention. You only need a heart that remembers its creator. A person who cannot fast due to illness can still earn the reward of a year of fasting if they intend sincerely to worship Allah through their patience. Someone who cannot stand in long prayers can still receive the reward of Tahajjud if their heart constantly turns toward Allah with longing and humility. Intention gives value to people who feel limited, exhausted, or spiritually weak, reminding them that Allah sees their efforts even when others do not. What makes intention powerful is that it is renewed in the unseen, known only to Allah. People may praise you or criticize you based on what they see, but Allah rewards you based on what He knows. That is why a private intention can elevate a believer above those who perform countless outward deeds. It shifts the focus from impressing creation to connecting with the Creator. When your heart aligns with Allah, even the smallest movement carries weight. Intention transforms ordinary moments into acts of worship and makes simple deeds equal to a year of fasting and tahajjud in the sight of the most merciful. There are moments in life when a person performs a small act of obedience, something so simple and quiet that no one else even notices it. And yet, in the sight of Allah, that act becomes greater than years of worship done without humility. This is because Allah is not impressed by the size of the action. He is moved by the sincerity of the heart behind it. A single moment of obedience done purely for His sake can shine brighter in the heavens than a lifetime of rituals performed with arrogance or carelessness. Imagine someone who prays Tahajjud every night, but their heart is filled with pride, thinking they are better than others. Now imagine another person who cannot stand long in prayer, who struggles, who feels weak. Yet one night they raise their hands and whisper, "Ya Allah, accept me." In the sight of Allah, that sincere whisper may be more valuable than all the prayers performed with a hardened heart. This is the divine scale of worthiness. Purity outweighs performance. Humility outweighs quantity. When a believer performs an action with a trembling heart, maybe a small charity, maybe a secret dua, maybe a moment of forgiving someone for the sake of Allah, that one act can carry the reward of someone who fasted the entire year. Because when pride is absent and sincerity is present, the heart becomes the true place of worship. Hearts that bow before Allah are more beloved to Him than bodies that bow mechanically. This is the mercy and wisdom of Allah. He honors the inner struggle more than the outer appearance. He values the effort of the unseen battle within the soul more than the visible gestures people show to the world. A tiny act, performed with deep humility and genuine love for Allah, can elevate a person in ways that years of outward worship never could. When we say that Allah looks at the heart before He looks at the action, it reminds us of a truth that can completely reshape how we understand worship, goodness, and spirituality. The world judges outwardly, what people see, what appears impressive, what can be measured. But Allah judges inwardly, what people cannot see, the sincerity that cannot be faked, the purity that cannot be performed. This is why a small deed done with a broken but sincere heart can outweigh a mountain of external actions that carry no true devotion inside. The heart is where intention, humility, fear of Allah, gratitude, and trust all reside. When the heart is alive, even simple acts of worship glow with meaning. When the heart is cold, even great acts of worship become empty motions. A person might stand in prayer for a long time, yet their heart is distant. Another might pray 2 short rakahs, but their heart is crying out to Allah, yearning for His mercy, trusting His wisdom. It is the second person whose deed carries more weight because the heart is the true essence of worship. Allah sees the struggles that happen inside the heart when you fight a sin, when you choose patience even though it hurts, when you forgive someone, though your ego resists, when you say Alhamdulillah while holding back tears. These hidden battles are more beloved to Him than the actions people display proudly. The Prophet reminded us that actions are judged by intentions, meaning that the heart shapes the reward long before the action even begins. When a believer worships with a heart aware of Allah, every deed becomes elevated. This is why some people receive the reward of a year of fasting or tahajjud through a single sincere act, because their heart was present, humbled, and connected to its Creator. In the end, it is the heart that makes an action worthy in the sight of Allah, and it is the heart that brings a person closest to Him. There are certain deeds that open the doors to astonishing amounts of reward far beyond what we can imagine. Among them are actions that, when performed with sincerity and love for Allah, earn a person the reward of fasting for an entire year and praying Tahajjud throughout that year. This reality reminds us that Allah's generosity is limitless and that His rewards are not restricted by the size of the action but by the depth of faith behind it. Allah knows that not every believer has the same strength, time, or ability to perform long hours of worship, but He still wants to give them the chance to rise, to be elevated, and to be rewarded in extraordinary ways. There are simple acts, maybe reciting a short dhikr, maybe helping someone in need, maybe showing kindness to a parent, maybe stepping away from a sin for His sake, that unlock rewards equivalent to a year of fasting and night prayers. This is because these deeds reflect sincerity, sacrifice, and obedience. A person who restrains their tongue, forgives someone, or offers a quiet prayer of gratitude might be performing something small in the eyes of people, but in the sight of Allah, these actions can carry the value of great worship. They are acts that purify the heart and bring it closer to Allah. And that closeness is often worth more than physical rituals performed without connection. Allah multiplies these deeds in unseen ways. When He sees a believer struggling, yet still choosing Him, He honors that choice with rewards that surpass what the believer could ever earn through willpower alone. It is a reminder that we do not reach Allah through our strength, we reach Him through our sincerity. Some deeds are doorways, opportunities to be lifted spiritually, to have our ranks raised, and to taste the sweetness of faith. These special acts are gifts from Allah, offered to every believer regardless of their circumstances. They show that one moment of true connection with Him can be worth an entire year of worship. Allah's generosity is beyond anything the human mind can fully comprehend. When we say that He multiplies good deeds for those He loves, especially in moments of struggle and sincerity, it highlights a profound reality about our relationship with Him. Allah does not simply reward the action itself, He rewards the heart behind it, the effort within it, and the sincerity that carried it. Sometimes a believer is going through hardship, loneliness, confusion, or emotional exhaustion, yet they still choose to obey Allah, still choose to remember Him, still choose to say Alhamdulillah through their tears. That moment of faith is more beloved to Allah than years of ritual worship done in comfort. When a believer performs even a small deed during a difficult time, Allah multiplies its reward in extraordinary ways. A single prayer performed with a heavy heart, a single act of charity done while struggling, a single moment of forgiving someone when anger is burning inside. These become acts that Allah elevates to the ranks of fasting and tahajjud for an entire year. Hardship beautifies sincerity, and sincerity opens the GA. Tes of immense reward. Allah knows the weight you carry. He knows the nights you could not sleep. He knows the battles you fought silently. When you choose Him through those moments, He honors you in ways you cannot imagine. This multiplication of reward is also a sign of Allah's love. He wants to bring you closer to Him. He wants you to feel seen, appreciated, and valued. He wants you to know that your struggle was not in vain. When the believer keeps turning back to Allah despite their weakness, Allah responds with mercy, acceptance, and multiplied blessings. Every step you take toward Him during hardship is magnified because it reflects trust, devotion, and resilience. In the end, Allah's multiplication of deeds is not just a reward, it is a gesture of divine love, showing how closely He watches over His servants and how generously He honors their sincere efforts. A hidden act of worship is one of the most beautiful and powerful forms of ibadah a believer can offer. It carries a special purity because it exists in a space where no eyes can see, no ears can hear, and no hearts can judge, except the heart of the believer and the sight of Allah Himself. When a deed is hidden, it becomes shielded from pride, from seeking praise, from the subtle desire to impress others. It becomes an offering made in the quiet chambers of the soul, purely for the one who created that soul. And because of this purity, Allah elevates such deeds far beyond what we think they are worth. There are people who perform acts of goodness silently, giving charity that no one knows about, praying in the depth of the night when everyone else sleeps, making dua for someone without them ever hearing, or choosing patience without announcing their suffering. These actions may look small or invisible in the world, but they shine brightly in the heavens. A single hidden act done with sincerity, and elevate a believer more than years of worship performed publicly, because the sincerity behind it remains untouched and uncorrupted. Allah loves when His servant chooses Him secretly. It reflects a deep, intimate relationship, a connection that does not need validation from the world. When someone hides their good deed, it shows that they are doing it only for Allah's pleasure, not for recognition or admiration. And Allah rewards this sincerity with blessings that are multiplied beyond measure. Sometimes a hidden act becomes the reason a person's heart softens, their sins are forgiven, or their rank in paradise rises. This key point reminds us to value the hidden moments, the quiet dua, the unnoticed kindness, the personal sacrifice. These are often the deeds that carry the reward of a year of fasting and tahajjud, because they come from a place of pure devotion, free from worldly expectations. Hidden worship strengthens the soul, purifies the heart, and draws the believer closer to Allah in ways public actions cannot. True reward in the sight of Allah is never about how big or impressive an action appears. It is about sincerity, humility, and a heart that depends entirely on Him. A person may perform many deeds that seem great on the outside, but if those deeds carry arrogance, carelessness, or a desire for praise, their weight becomes light on the scale. Meanwhile, another believer may do something extremely small yet filled with sincerity, and Allah raises it to the level of enormous reward, sometimes equivalent to a year of fasting and praying tahajjud. This is because Allah looks at the quality of the heart, not the quantity of the action. Humility is a powerful form of worship. When a believer says, "I cannot do anything without you, Ya Allah," their heart becomes a place of light. Their actions, even the simplest ones, are wrapped in sincerity. A humble heart is aware of its dependence on Allah, and that awareness transforms every deed into something meaningful. A person who sweeps the floor of the masjid quietly may earn more reward than someone who donates a large amount publicly with pride. Someone who whispers a dua with trembling sincerity may rise higher in Allah's sight than someone who prays long prayers while seeking admiration. Dependence on Allah, tawakkul, also shapes the value of an action. When you perform a good deed believing that any success comes only from Him, that dependence beautifies the action. Allah loves the servant who comes to Him with brokenness, not confidence, with gratitude, not self-praise, with humility, not entitlement. When humility accompanies an action, it becomes heavy on the scale of good deeds. This key point teaches us that spiritual greatness is not about doing more, it's about doing sincerely. It reminds us that Allah rewards hearts, not performances. The believer whose actions are soaked in humility and sincerity may receive rewards far beyond what they physically performed, because their heart was truly connected to Allah. Sometimes Allah grants an immense reward for a single deed as a gentle reminder of how close He is to you. There are moments when a believer feels lost, overwhelmed, or unsure of their worth. In those moments, Allah sends signs, subtle, quiet, and deeply personal, to show that He has never left their side. One of those signs is when a simple act becomes magnified into the reward of fasting for a year or praying tahajjud every night. It is Allah's way of telling the servant, "I see you, I see your struggle, I see your effort, and I am closer to you than you realize." Divine rewards are not random. They carry messages of love, mercy, and reassure. And sometimes Allah knows that a person needs encouragement, a reminder that their journey matters. They might feel spiritually empty, yet they make one small dua. They might feel weak, yet they choose patience for a moment. They might feel distant from Allah, yet their heart turns to Him even once with sincerity. In response, Allah multiplies that moment beyond imagination. Not because the action was grand, but because the heart behind it was vulnerable, honest, and seeking Him. This multiplication becomes a divine message. Your effort is not unnoticed. Your pain is not ignored. Your faith, even if small, is precious. When Allah grants huge reward for a tiny deed, it lifts the believer's heart. It shows them that Allah is not waiting for perfection. He is waiting for sincerity. It teaches them that the doors of mercy are always open and that Allah's generosity is far greater than their shortcomings. This key point reminds us that every moment of turning back to Allah is cherished by Him. He uses such multiplied rewards to strengthen your iman, to bring hope back into your heart, and to draw you nearer to Him. It is His way of showing that He is closer to you than your fears, your sadness, or your struggles. Sometimes we think that acts of worship must be grand, long, or difficult to carry great reward. Yet Allah's wisdom teaches us that the simplest actions, done sincerely, can hold unimaginable weight. A small dhikr whispered from the heart, a gentle smile to a fellow believer, a word of encouragement, a single moment spent helping someone, or even removing a harmful object from the path of others. These acts, though small in appearance, can earn a believer reward equivalent to a year of fasting or praying Tahajjud. This is because Allah measures deeds not by effort alone, but by the intention, love, and sincerity behind them. The beauty of these simple acts is that they are accessible to every believer, regardless of age, health, or circumstance. A child can earn enormous reward by helping a parent. A sick person can gain immense merit through patience and remembrance. A traveler, burdened with fatigue, can earn multiplied reward by choosing a brief act of goodness. When performed purely for Allah's sake, these small deeds become monumental in the scale of divine reward. Allah magnifies even the smallest effort because it reflects a heart seeking Him. The simplicity of an act does not diminish its value, rather, its sincerity magnifies it. When a person gives charity quietly, prays in secret, or remembers Allah with trembling devotion, these actions carry more weight than outwardly impressive rituals performed without humility. Allah rewards the heart, the sacrifice, and the devotion behind the act, sometimes exceeding what the believer imagines. This key point reminds us that no good deed is too small. Every moment of obedience, every act of kindness, every whisper of remembrance has the potential to transform a believer's spiritual rank. Through these simple actions, Allah draws the heart closer to Him, purifies the soul, and demonstrates that even a small effort done sincerely can outweigh years of outward worship. Allah's reward is not limited to the physical action alone. He also takes into account the patience, struggle, and sacrifice that a believer experiences in performing that action. Every act of worship carries with it layers of intention, effort, and endurance, and it is these hidden struggles that often make the deed so precious in the sight of Allah. For example, someone may fast through a day when their body feels weak, their mind restless, and their heart tested by cravings and fatigue. They may perform tahajjud in the middle of a cold, silent night while their body pleads for rest. Allah sees all of this, not just the act itself, and multiplies the reward accordingly. The greater the struggle, the more opportunity there is for divine mercy and reward. This principle reminds us that Allah values not only what we do, but the effort behind what we do. When a believer performs a good deed despite facing inner resistance, external challenges, or emotional pain, that deed becomes a source of immense reward. The act itself may seem small to the world, but to Allah, it represents perseverance, reliance on Him, and sincerity of heart. Struggle adds weight and depth to worship because it reflects conscious choice. A believer chose. Says Allah over comfort, over ease, over distraction, and over worldly desires. That conscious effort is what Allah honors. Moreover, this understanding comforts the believer during hardship. It reminds us that enduring trials while holding fast to faith is itself worship. Each moment of patience, each act of obedience performed under difficulty is recognized by Allah and recorded as a means of elevation in this life and the next. Even when no one else notices, Allah's sight encompasses everything, and the reward for enduring hardship with sincerity can be far greater than years of effortless worship. This key point teaches that the believer's journey is not only measured by outward actions, but by the inner strength, patience, and sacrifice that accompany those actions. Every struggle, every moment of restraint, every sacrifice for Allah becomes a treasure of reward, transforming ordinary deeds into extraordinary blessings. Acts of worship performed in private hold a unique and transformative power for the believer. When we step away from the gaze of others and dedicate our actions solely to Allah, the heart becomes the center of devotion, and the act itself acquires a depth and purity that public worship cannot always reach. Private worship is free from pride, comparison, or the desire for recognition. It exists solely in the intimate connection between the servant and the Creator, and it is in this hidden space that the believer's faith is truly tested and strengthened. When a believer prays Tahajjud alone, whispers a dua in the quiet of the night, or gives charity without anyone knowing, these acts reflect a heart fully surrendered to Allah. They reveal sincerity, humility, and a longing to draw near to the one who knows all that is hidden. The reward for these private acts is often multiplied because they are done purely for Allah's pleasure. There is no applause, no worldly acknowledgement, only the awareness that Allah sees, knows, and honors every effort. Private worship also transforms the soul. It teaches patience, self-discipline, and the art of turning inward to seek Allah's satisfaction rather than human approval. Each act performed in secrecy purifies the heart, strengthens reliance on Allah, and fosters a deep sense of spiritual intimacy. Over time, these hidden deeds shape the believer's character, cultivating humility, mindfulness, and love for Allah that radiates outward in actions, even in public settings. This key point reminds us that the unseen acts of devotion are often the most valuable. They may appear small or unnoticed to the world, but in the eyes of Allah, they carry immense rewards, sometimes equivalent to a year of fasting and tahajjud. Private worship strengthens the believer's soul, elevates spiritual rank, and nurtures a profound closeness to Allah that public acts alone cannot achieve. It is in these hidden moments that the heart truly finds peace and connection with its Creator. The journey of a believer is not measured by the quantity of deeds performed, but by the quality, sincerity, and presence of the heart in every action. Islam teaches that true worship is not about how many hours one spends in prayer, how many fasts are observed, or how many rituals are performed. Rather, it is about how deeply the heart connects with Allah in each moment, how genuine the intention is, and how much humility and devotion accompany the act. A single act done with complete sincerity can surpass years of worship done mechanically or without mindfulness. Quality over quantity emphasizes the importance of presence in worship. When a believer prays, fasts, or gives charity with a distracted mind or a heavy heart, the action may lose its spiritual essence. On the other hand, when a simple act is performed, with full attention, love, and consciousness of Allah, it becomes a powerful source of reward. The heart becomes a mirror reflecting true devotion, and Allah, who knows the unseen, multiplies the value of that sincere effort. This principle also reassures believers who may feel incapable of performing extensive worship. Not everyone can pray long nights or fast continuously due to age, health, or circumstance. Islam teaches that even small acts, when executed with purity of heart, carry immense reward. A whisper of dhikr, a brief dua, a small act of kindness, or a secret act of charity can be more valuable than years of outward worship done without connection or sincerity. The journey of the soul, therefore, is defined by presence, intention, and humility, rather than the sheer number of acts. It reminds the believer that spiritual elevation comes from the heart's alignment with Allah. By focusing on quality and presence in every act, a believer nurtures a closer relationship with their Creator, ensuring that even the smallest efforts are transformed into acts of immense reward, drawing them nearer to Allah with every sincere moment. Divine opportunities often arrive during hardship, reminding us that Allah sees our struggle and rewards it generously. Life is not always easy, and the believer's path is often filled with trials, tests, and moments of despair. Yet it is precisely in these difficult moments that Allah opens doors of immense blessing. A tear shed in patience, a quiet prayer whispered in the depth of the night, a small act of obedience performed despite emotional or physical exhaustion. These are the moments when Allah's mercy descends most profoundly. The believer may feel weak, unnoticed, or overwhelmed, but Allah is always aware, and He multiplies the reward for those who remain sincere in their devotion even during hardship. Hardship serves a deeper purpose. It softens the heart, awakens the soul, and reminds the believer of their dependence on Allah. When a person struggles but continues to turn back to Allah, even in small acts of worship, that struggle itself becomes a source of reward. A single act of patience or trust in the midst of difficulty may carry the reward equivalent to a year of fasting or nightly prayers. This principle reassures believers that no effort is wasted and no hardship is without meaning in the sight of Allah. Moreover, divine opportunities and hardship are a sign of Allah's love. They indicate that He is watching, guiding, and elevating His servant. The believer learns that spiritual growth is not always comfortable, but it is always meaningful. Each test, each trial, each moment of perseverance becomes a stepping stone toward closeness to Allah, purification of the heart, and immense reward. This key point reminds us to embrace challenges as opportunities for spiritual elevation. Even when life feels heavy, every act done sincerely, every moment of patience, and every effort to obey Allah in difficulty can carry extraordinary reward. Hardship is not a barrier. It is a pathway, a divine invitation to draw nearer to Allah and earn blessings that are beyond imagination.